Hey guys, so we have a Nintendo Direct coming up. I talked to you about this a little bit, Evan. It's tomorrow. Yeah. And a lot of people have been doing prediction shows or things like that. And we wanted to kind of talk about it briefly, not super long, but briefly, just about what we expect from the Nintendo Direct, and really maybe just a crazy prediction or something out there that may not come true, but it'd be cool to get it right. Because we've talked about things like, before E3 happened, we were talking about Metroid possibly being there, and it did show up, which was really cool. 2 Metroid games showed up. But this is going to be a little different because this is a 45-minute Nintendo Direct. Something that none of us were expecting. A 45-minute Direct. Maybe 20 minutes? 45 minutes is a long Direct.
Yeah, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, so we're expecting some of the basics. Zelda DLC. We already know Mario Odyssey will be there probably for Amiibo support, right? Maybe they'll introduce Cappy as an Amiibo, and you tap him and you get something. There's a lot of enemies they can do. They could even do, obviously, Bowser in his, tuxedo and everything with the hat. So we'll really be curious to see what those Amiibos do, and I'm sure plenty of Amiibo collectors will go crazy about it, but the games are probably the most interesting. Zelda DLC obviously will be there. I think that's coming out later on this year, so that'll definitely be there. But we need release dates on that as well.
A lot of things. Definitely, we got Rocket League.
Yes.
It's one of the core ones everyone's hoping for, the mass cross-platform play.
I want to play. Rocket League portably is super interesting. I think there's a lot of people who, even if they've played Rocket League before, they would really consider buying it on the Switch if you have a Switch, a PS4, or a PC, or an Xbox One, just because you can sit on the couch and play it. It's interesting to see that game go to a portable system so quickly after it released a couple years ago. But still, the fact that it's coming to a portable system already that has crossplay with systems that are tied to your TV or your PC. You play against other people or with them, I guess at that point on the Xbox or the PC. But that's very interesting. But we still don't have a release date. It's very odd not to have a release date yet from Psyonix.
And with the announcement that co-op is available in Stardew Valley, that it's coming and that it's all pretty much done and checked off, and now they're just making sure Nintendo's cool with it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know you were saying one of the best things about Nintendo Directs historically have always been showing off a game, making it seem like getting everyone hyped for when it's going to get released, and then they have that one bar that just pops up that says, check the eShop now.
That would be so cool. Oh, man, if they bring Stardew Valley up, because as far as we know, like I was saying before, they've already finished it and they've sent it off to Nintendo to get Nintendo's approval. So if Nintendo's already approved it and they're under an NDA, it could release as soon as, I don't know, next week, or even like you said, maybe it's a surprise announcement that it's available at the conclusion of the eShop, or at the conclusion of the Direct. Yeah, and it's on the eShop. That would be amazing if they did that. And then there are, of course, a bunch of other indie games that want to go to the Switch because of how well they're doing. So really anything could happen with indie games going to the Switch. And then, of course, we have other games that they're talking about in the coming months. We need a release date for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 so badly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So badly. That is one. And Monolith Software actually retweeted the Direct, which usually when that happens means that Xenoblade will be there in some form. And that is a massive game to have during the holidays. I mean, that really scratches that JRPG itch for the system.
Yep.
And to see a game like that already portable, again, we saw Chronicles X on the Wii U, and that game was massive. It's one of the biggest games I've ever seen. And now it's going to be on a handheld, which is crazy to think about. We've seen it running. It ran okay, but we don't have a release date still for it. So that is something we desperately need a release date for. But, Evan, we talked a little bit about maybe some things that you were looking forward to seeing. Hopefully, maybe nothing that's obviously confirmed yet, because we were trying to figure out what could be there that would surprise some people, right? I think a lot of people saw Fallout 4 get put on retail sites for the Switch, had everyone talking about this Fallout 4 thing. I didn't really expect that to show up anywhere on the Switch currently, because Skyrim, which we also need a release date for Skyrim, by the way.
Absolutely.
Skyrim is still not out yet. I don't know why Bethesda would want to show up with a game like a Fallout 4 if they're still trying to push Skyrim along.
Especially with how poorly optimized Fallout 4 was for even the consoles, like the regular consoles, to then be like, hey, it's going on this hybrid handheld that I would have a lot of fear with that, just how bad the frame drop would be, and
it barely ran on the PS4.
It'd be a completely miserable experience.
It had such a hard time running on the OG PS4. Ran a little better on the Pro, but had a very tough time.
I could see down the road if they ever do a re-release of Fallout 4 on a new engine, kind of like or an updated engine rather, kind of like how Metro did with Metro Redux. Maybe we'll see that then be announced, because they're definitely waiting to see how Skyrim lands.
I do want to say Skyrim on the Switch runs like remarkably well. And it's a special edition one. We see the shaders that look really good on the Switch through a lot of off-screen footage. People are doing footage of like the handheld. Philip, I think, did a lot of that. And the load times are better on the Switch.
Oh yeah, solid state.
That's true, yeah. It has that internal memory. That's
install that game on a solid state in a computer and your load time is insane.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point. But if we compare it to the PS4 and the Xbox One, not a massive difference, but this thing is portable. So again, that seems to be a big advantage for this little system. The fact that it can play console-grade games portably. I know a lot of people are going to say Skyrim's old. It was from a while ago, you know. But they did update it to the special edition, and then it released on the PS4 and the Xbox One, and a lot of people didn't see it as old then, and it runs at 30 frames, and the Switch version runs at 30 frames. Now, I know that engine does some weird stuff when it gets higher frame rates. If you get above 60, objects will start launching into the air and some crazy stuff happens. But still, it's running at 30 frames. It looks good. And, well, the PS4 and the Xbox One version look very similar. Also run at 30 frames. So it's going to be interesting to see how that does. I think it'll do well. I think Skyrim will do well. Its launch window is really going to affect it, though, because it probably doesn't want to launch around when Mario Odyssey launches.
Let alone the Xeno game. If it comes out around any of those times, it's going to have a struggle.
I think they can place that game mid-November, and I think it would be okay. If they get 2 weeks between Mario Odyssey and Skyrim, get people who, wait on a paycheck or whatnot. Yeah. Even 3 weeks. Like, let's say that comes out like the week before Thanksgiving. I think it would be okay. Like, because Mario Odyssey's due out at the very end of October. Let's say Skyrim comes out November, I'm not looking at a calendar, November 21st or something, right? Something like that. The 20th. Somewhere in there. I think they would be okay, and I think they would get enough sales just because of that window, where it gives people enough time to buy that and then get more money for Xenoblade, which will probably be, I want to say Xenoblade's probably the first or second week in December, is what I would guess.
I could see that.
I don't think Skyrim will be December. I think Skyrim will be in November, and I think Xenoblade will be December. You could technically flip-flop them, but I just think that's the order they'll go in. The teaser site also went up for Skyrim over the weekend, so that tells me we're getting a release date, absolutely. Now, we talked a little bit about some crazy announcements. I just talked about Fallout 4. What do you want to see, Evan, that's not really game-related that you were telling me about?
Oh, the relaunch of the social setup. What was it, Miiverse they called it? Or
the Miiverse.
The Miiverse, yes. Because, that's really where they wanted to go. Nintendo wanted to push a pseudo type of community interaction. We all make fun of them for having, like, the friend code system and setup, and how they seem to want to keep everyone apart to a degree in a lot of these games, but they do try to make it feel like you're not alone when you're playing it. That's why they had the Miiverse pop up. You could actually interact with tons of people, and just, it's this great feeling of being part of a community, and then they just got rid of it. Very recently, actually.
Yep.
Like, a month ago?
Well, not even. It's not gone yet, but they announced that it's going to be gone in November.
The drop of it?
Yeah, so they announced it like a week ago that it's going away.
I hope that's just because that platform, they want to recombine the 3DS with the Switch in a little bit more of a direct fashion like that. Because really, probably the biggest downside for me when I started playing on the Switch for our reviews that we were doing was when I set up my account, it was just pick an icon. And then there you go. That's it. You just go. It lost that kind of personalization that the Wii, and even, I guess, the Wii U. And
You're even talking about just building a Mii even, right?
Yeah, just this is me. It's not just here, pick one of these 6-7 icons.
Right, yeah.
Then play a game. And it's I guess it's fast, but
Who did you pick? I picked Fox. Who did you pick?
I got Bowser.
Okay, you got Bowser, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a little bit lousy for them to kind of set that up, because we're already feeling the lack of interest in community support with the phone app.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's completely separate. It feels like they're just kind of peeling people away from trying to gather on the system. It'd be cool to see them finally be like, well, okay, we're bringing Miiverse 2.0 or whatever to the Switch. The reason we pulled it from the 3DS as well is because we couldn't get it to work between the 3DS and anything else that they had. It was on the Wii U, right?
What's that?
The Miiverse?
Oh, yeah. That was that's where all those popular memes came from, where the person was trying to play Super Metroid, and they were obviously younger, so they hadn't played it when it first came out. And there was a spot where you could crawl through, and they had a picture, and they were like, why can't Metroid crawl? Because they didn't know you're supposed to go get the Morph Ball. But there were so many hilarious things that happened there during the Virtual Console.
But I'm imagining, because that's probably all done through one platform, it wouldn't work on the Switch easily. So instead of having to reprogram and refigure all that out with how limited they're just not supporting the Wii U anymore. They figured they'd just rescript something so that it works between the 3DS and the Switch, and maybe they'll bring it back.
We've already seen the compatibility though with Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Double Cross.
Yeah, where Switch and the 3DS work fine, even through like co-op play. You have to do it through network, obviously, but it works.
So that's kind of my hope, is because we still haven't seen too much about the online past like the minor stuff they showed us.
That's a big problem, yeah.
And they were supposed to have told us so much more by now. And this is going to be a 45-minute direct. Maybe they'll hit us with a couple of release dates. That's great. But I'm hoping at least like 25, 30 minutes of it is, this is how online works. Here you go.
Something about the online, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because they are going to expect us to pay for it next year.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be in beta already. I feel like we thought we'd already be in the beta process now, right?
Yeah, it's because we
would do
figured
things like virtual console.
We figured we'd be in the beta because of Splatoon, because Splatoon was going to be massive online. It had to be part of this, right? Wrong, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think right now a lot of people probably wouldn't want to pay for the phone app, for example.
No, yeah.
Online play, obviously, yes, especially if we see something like Smash Brothers get announced.
Yes,
right.
I still don't think that's gonna happen.
No, you're not seeing Smash Bros.
I think they want to hold off another year.
Okay. You just don't think that's on their radar right this second? That seems like maybe that's something like they would do at E3 even.
We're at that point of critical saturation where if they're just like, here's all these games, the games are going to start to hurt on release because of how much there is coming out all at once that everyone wants. They have to spread some things out a little bit. Because everyone's still heavily relying on the indie games. As we've talked about, the indie developers have said they made more on the Switch than all the other systems combined.
A lot of them have said that,
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So maybe they'll just rely on that heavily. But the trick is now they're going to have to balance it to make it so that the Switch doesn't get viewed as this is just an indie system. Versus a AAA system.
Yeah, that could be an issue.
They got to find... I don't want them to like run out of the AAA titles. Because if they're just like, in the next 4 months, all the titles we told you about are coming out, then what's next? Hopefully something?
Well, I mean, there are still a lot of games coming. Payday 2, that's on the way. I know that's not like a big, drop the confetti type game, look what we have. But that's coming. They do have some sports titles with FIFA, NBA. NBA is going to be the exact same version, by the way, feature-wise, with minor downgrades for things like frame rate and probably resolution. But otherwise, you're playing NBA on the go. So they do have some of those companies on board. LA Noire going to the Switch as well. That's again, that's November. So that's another November game where I think Skyrim and LA Noire will kind of be two of the bigger games in November for Nintendo. But if more of these third parties start jumping on board because the Switch is selling them, then you're going to see a lot of them show up next year. I always say this about a lot of systems. The second year is always the biggest year for most of them. Like they really start to get their legs underneath them and start running. Then
it'll be interesting to see who else picks it up.
Yeah. So this direct is probably, according to them, going to focus in the coming months. So anything that we've seen that we don't have release dates for, expect that to get a heavy spotlight put on it. And at the end, maybe they hit us with 1 or 2 new announcements. We were jokingly saying Dragon Ball Fighter, because we've been on a Dragon Ball kick recently.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon Ball Fighters, we would love to see them just show up because Xenoverse 2 has done really well so far. And
just to add that little Switch symbol to the launching.
Yeah, even if it just popped up and it was like Dragon Ball Fighters, people would freak out, because it's still not due out till next year. And ArcSys they're good at what they're doing. They're good at what they do. So
and the engine seems smooth, runs on not a lot of power. You might even be able to get handheld like high frames on a fighting game.
Xenoverse 2 is probably more demanding than Fighters, and it actually runs surprisingly well on the Switch. So yeah, I could see that working out. But I guess that's where we'll leave it. We're expecting to see some of the other games like Yoshi, Kirby, but those aren't due out till next year. So you'll see small bits of that, and then mostly everything about what we're waiting for, like Skyrim, Xenoblade, obviously, Payday, Monopoly, maybe? They showed Monopoly. Yeah. Stardew Valley, those are all games we're looking for. Golf Story, I need to really stay for that game. Golf Story, man.
I don't know how much more they'll show us about that game.
I don't know. It's an indie game.
They've shown us a fair bit. At this point, it just needs to drop.
It just needs to drop, yeah. It's supposed to be this month at some point. I don't know. But I guess that's going to wrap it up from here. Was there anything about the direct you wanted to talk about, Evan? Or are you good?
I think we covered it.
You think you're good?
Pretty much all of it.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be streaming it tomorrow, so stop by and check it out with me. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of times we only seem to be able to guess half the stuff that's going to happen. Just random stuff always seems to happen in these directs. 45 minutes is a long time, so I'm excited to.
A lot can go right. A lot can go wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow when we get this thing streamed.